Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the new release of a film that most people probably won't end up seeing. It's a film called Here by Robert Zemeckis, starring the likes of Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. Now, I can say for sure I am a big fan of Robert Zemeckis, not a huge fan of Tom Hanks. Robin Wright is a pretty talented actress, but even from the trailers of that movie, it definitely seems like it's trying to appeal to an older demographic that, as we have known for a long time covering the box office, has just not been able to return to the box office, to the theaters, in any real recordable way, to any real sense of consistency, at least, since the time of the pandemic. And so we could probably project right now that this $50 million budgeted movie from Sony Pictures / TriStar probably will not end up making much money at all. In fact, the overall projections right now are looking pretty bad. The big story is, of course, going to be about how Venom: The Last Dance, Venom 3 is able to hold. And as of right now, the projections don't look terrible for the film. Right now, some early indications are that it might actually hold pretty strong. We'll talk about what the likelihood of that actually happening are, and also what that means for the overall long-term prospects of the film, and whether or not the break even, whether or not the film will actually break even in the stretch, and how well the film will probably do in the long run. So we'll talk about that. Also, of course, talking about how Smile 2 is holding, the Wild Robot updates on that, and a plethora of other things. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Venom: Last Dance, right now, Box Office Theory at least projects the film is going to drop around 58%. Now, that's a pretty good hold for a movie like this. Typically, when we see these more superhero type films that cost a little bit more, we usually see a lot of upfront showing up for, a lot of upfront traffic, but then it drops off pretty high in the second week of release. We saw even a pretty high drop off even for a film like Smile 2, so much so that film is tracking now quite far behind that of the original Smile movie. And so again, obviously that's a movie that cost very little, $28 million budget for Smile 2, and it's still likely right now on the track to make money, and actually is already making money based off of that smaller budget and how much it has made so far. But still a very very high drop nonetheless. Venom 3 being able to drop only 58%, at least being projected to do so. That looks pretty darn good. If we go to some of the other sites right now, we can see Venom: The Last Dance being projected on Box Office Pro to be making around $17 to $23 million. And so that would put it right about in line, though they definitely have a lower end for it, meaning that they could see the film dropping maybe in the 60s range. If I had to personally guess, I would not be surprised to see Venom 3 drop in that range as well. I know that there have been some, we could say positive reviews, but ultimately those were pretty marginal at best, right? People like Critical Drinker saying that the movie is garbage, but hey, he had a lot of fun watching it, and there were a lot of people in theaters having fun. And we all know that entertainment value, having fun in a theater, goes a long way in today's market. But at the same time, there are still a lot of other people, a lot more people, it seems, at least to me, that are thinking the movie is just really not worth the time at all to see it, not even matching up to that of the original movie. And so therefore may have still a lot of people not willing to really want to spend their money or their time going to watch it, even if it is a fun garbage type movie, kind of on the level of a Madam Web, is what I've been hearing. Yeah, I mean, when I hear that and I hear it's a garbage movie that might be fun, I just don't really have any desire to watch it. I'm just going to be honest. It's just not something that really appeals to me in any way whatsoever. Now, the film right now projected by Box Office Theory to be making upwards of $82.8 million domestically. So that means the film probably has a good chance of tracking towards $100 million domestic. So, there is something to that, but this film is not going to get anywhere close to the amount of money that the previous films made. The first film making, around, $800 million plus when you adjust those numbers. And then the last film making around $500 million plus. I don't think that this film is going to be able to get that, mostly because of those domestic numbers. The international is the real story when it comes to Venom: The Last Dance, because that is where all the money is being made, especially in communist China. But as you can see, right, we do still have some range here on what people think is going to happen with the movie. Even Box Office Report thinking that's going to drop around 60% with $20.2 million. I would probably fall more in line with a number like Box Office Report and the lower end of Box Office Pro. But hey, we'll find out this Sunday whether or not this film has a decent hold, has a strong hold, in fact, or whether or not that is just not the case whatsoever. Can it make up those domestic numbers in the long run, or will the international just continue to dominate what is likely going to be a marginally successful film. We'll dive into the chart there once we get to it. Smile 2 right now predicted to drop another 35%. That's a pretty good hold for a film that had a pretty sizable week 2 drop. Dropping only 35% after the fact means that the film apparently still has a little bit of legs, has a little bit of time to be able to make back some money there. $51.3 million is what it's being projected it will make after the fact. We have the new film here actually in the number 2 spot according to Box Office Pro with a range of $3 to $7 million. Smile 2 also in that same range as well. So Box Office Pro thinks those two films will be battling out, whereas if you go over to Box Office Report, they're similar to Box Office Theory, thinking that Smile 2 will take the number 2 spot with 38% of a drop there, and The Wild Robot coming in the number 3 spot, projected to have only an 18% drop. Again, Wild Robot right now projected to do very, very well with here, a new film, a new release, getting $4.8 million as a new release, coming in just above Conclave's second weekend, which, as you all know, I have no interest in Conclave. I think the ending of the film just destroys any desire to ever want to see the film because it tries to put nonsense political woke identity politics, and it's just not worth watching and not worth supporting in today's world. Those are the types of films that should be resisted and I think should be, of course, just ignored altogether. Anyway, going back into it, Wild Robot also on Box Office Series chart is expected to get the number 3 spot, 27% hold there, another $5 million. This film, again, little engine that could, still doing very, very well. And this film also, and this chart also has here coming in that number 4 spot, coming in just above Conclave. So very interesting to see where the new film here does against Conclave. Again, this new film here coming from Robert Zemeckis, starring the likes of Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. Again, it seems to me like, hey, this is a Robert Zemeckis film. The trailer looks somewhat interesting. There's a lot of de-aging that happens that looks somewhat okay, but also has that very weird uncanny valley effect where it just doesn't seem right. So whether or not the film is going to be able to actually appeal to any other demographic is going to be hard to say. But yeah, might be a film that I watch if I hear some pretty good things about it. If I hear some of the regular ordinary people who like to go see movies putting reviews out there, might be one to check out. But can't say for sure right now. And again, Tom Hanks, not really a good selling point, at least for me at this current time. And even Zemeckis, I love Zemeckis' work, his classic work, but even he has not had the best filmography over the last several years. And so it is what it is. Let's go ahead and jump into the charts because we love charts here on OMB Reviews. Big thing, of course, for the film here is that fact it costs $50 million to make, and that means that the film needs to make around $125 million to maybe $150 million worldwide to break even. Opening up in the single digits domestic does not seem like it's going to be able to make any money back in that way. The film Conclave has made so far around $9.1 million domestic, so still $24 million in the red. Not looking like that is going to be able to break even unless it has some massive release internationally. It's not looking like that's going to be the case, at least as of right now. So Conclave probably will end up getting projected to be a financial failure, but we will have that full breakdown on Sunday. Venom 3, again, this is a very interesting account, a very interesting story. It's made $46 million in China so far. Obviously, those numbers will update this coming weekend, and the real story is that this film is making all of its money internationally, right? With the largest chunk of its international coming from China. And remember, 25% of their box office is actually received. The studio only gets 25% returns from the box office in China, 40% from all the other international markets, and 55% from the domestic. So this film is just not really doing well enough in almost any of the markets to be able to really talk about it as being a box office hit or success. That being said, it did only cost around $120 million to make, at least according to recent reports. And that means right now it's $103 million in the red. By the end of this weekend, with another $20 million domestic and another, however much money internationally as well, we can see the film probably get close to $250 million internationally. I know it seems kind of high, but that's how well it is doing internationally versus the rest of the world, especially the domestic marketplace. So we could probably expect that number to be cut up quite a bit, maybe getting closer to net minus 70 million, minus 80 million, and upwards of minus 60 million by the end of the weekend. So the prospects of the film making money are actually going to be quite there. It's just not going to be projected to make a lot of money based off of the current tracking, based off of the current amount. So, hey, at least there's a chance they can make their money back at this point. But even if they do, it's just not going to be a whole lot because, not a very well-received movie at this point. Smile 2, really just right on the cusp, as I mentioned earlier, on making some money back, right? $578,000 in the red. So this film, by the end of today, when the numbers come out for Thursday, will definitely have made its money back. So kudos to Smile 2, going to be able to add it to its overall profits. The Apprentice, still a flop. Piece by Piece, still a flop. Terrifier 3 continued to add money, but obviously this film has pretty much made the vast majority of its money that it's going to make in the domestic marketplace. So kudos to them for being able to make massive profit margins compared to their budgets. Joker did cross $200 million, so this film did make more than some of the worst films to come out in the last couple of years, but it is still also one of the biggest flops to come out in the last couple of years. Megaflopolis, still indeed a flop. Wild Robot, look at that. Again, I think by the end of this weekend, the fact that it's now still in the top 5 after so many weeks of release, this film, again, more than doubled what it has made so far. So this film is going to be breaking into that profitability territory before it ends up leaving theaters. This is even before it gets released in Japan. This is even before you take into account any of the VOD sales, which I imagine are probably going to be pretty good for this movie. So I think the long-term success of this film is definitely going to be there. Is it going to be the biggest box office hit in animation history? No. But is it going to be a box office hit? Meaning, is it going to be able to be a film that made money back? And also, post-theatrically at least, we could say, will it be a successful film financially? Absolutely yes. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Even if it left theaters right now, this is a movie that's going to have easily made back that $7 million loss and added even more to those profits. And so kudos to the team for The Wild Robot for making a successful movie. Again, not the biggest animation film of the year, not the biggest box office hit of the year, not even close to those things, but it is still a box office success story because of just what they've been able to do, especially after the fact. So kudos to them. Transformers 1, great film. Unfortunately, a film just no one actually got to go and see. I think, though, even at $57 million in the red, I think that it'll make that money back in VOD sales and in its post-theatrical life. And so those are currently the numbers as they stand right now. What are y'all's thoughts? Again, not a whole lot coming out this weekend, but do you think that here will be any good? What have you been hearing about the film? And then also, what do you think is going to happen with Venom 3 and Smile 2? Do you think that Venom 3 is going to be able to hold very strong? Do you think Venom 3 has a chance of life, that it's going to be able to make some of its money back, make some profits? Let me know your thoughts on that and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button over in Austin, smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed All Saints Day, as we are in the second day of Hallowtide. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.